Hey folks, Mark Levin here. Now, before we dive into today's episode, I want to talk about something truly valuable, protecting your financial future with gold. It's called diversification. Now, for that, I only trust Advantage Gold. They're the real deal with 5-star service and a sterling reputation. So give them a call today. Call Advantage Gold at 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Trust me, you'll thank yourself in the future. Now let's get to the show. Results may vary. Consult with your financial professional.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. Well, as you know, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has endorsed Donald Trump, particularly in the battleground states. Can't hurt. I think it can only help, as a matter of fact, and I'm glad he did it. I don't agree with Robert F. Kennedy Jr. on all matters. Well, the neocon talk and some of the food talk and so forth and so on. But I do agree with him about the press and censorship. I do agree with him on immigration. I do agree with him about the Democrat Party. And I do agree that we have to win this election. We must win this election. So if I agree with him 40, 50, 60% of the time, that's good enough for me. Because with Kamala Harris and the Marxist Islamists, I disagree with them 120% of the time. So I encourage my fellow conservatives, constitutionalists, Reaganites, turn out in big numbers. We can use all the help we can get. And I'm glad that he's endorsing Trump. Again, I don't agree with him on everything, but so what? I don't care. This is too important. I don't agree with Gabbard on everything. Tulsi Gabbard. You know, there's this strain of isolationist, sort of quasi-pro-Russia element within the Republican Party, within the populist movement. I get it. You know what's interesting about Donald Trump? He's not one of them. He's not one of them. He's not necessarily a hawk either. He's a very commonsensical guy. Peace through strength. That's his belief. And he takes each situation and he deals with it. But he's not going to be Bush. He's not going to be Romney. So you don't have to worry about that either. He loves the country. He's got common sense. And it's all very, very important. So it's a good day to have RFK Jr. endorse Donald Trump. It's a good day to take attention off of the Roman circus that took place in Chicago. Grotesque. It'll never be forgotten. With the Islamists, the anti-Semites, the abortion ban, and all the rest of it. So bizarre. Truly bizarre. And there was something else that took place at that convention that nobody else has been talking about, as best as I know. I don't monitor everybody, but And it's this, as explained in Breitbart by Olivia Rondeau. Vice President Kamala Harris bragged during her speech about her supposed passion for helping victims of sexual assault while speaking at the DNC, ignoring her track record of failing to prosecute sexual abuse cases within the Catholic Church in San Francisco, and even hiding vital records on abuses that had occurred when she was the district attorney for that city. Addressing the crowd to formally accept her party's presidential nomination last night, Harris reflected on a, quote, pivotal moment, unquote, in her life that influenced her decision to become a prosecutor by bringing up the story of a peer who was victimized. Harris said that when she was in high school, she started to notice something about my best friend, Wanda. After Wanda supposedly confided in her that she was being abused by her stepfather, Harris claimed that she immediately told her she had to come stay with us, and she did. She said, this is one of the reasons I became a prosecutor, to protect people like Wanda, because I believe everyone has a right to safety, to dignity, and to justice. No one should be made to fight alone. We're still all in this together. Well, first of all, as you well know, when it comes to the border, she certainly hasn't taken that position. That last claim would be considered ironic to some members of victims groups who accused her prosecutorial office of brushing survivors' stories under the rug. During Harris's 13-year tenure as district attorney and then attorney general, she failed to prosecute even one case of pre-sexual abuse, even as at least 50 major cities brought charges against priests in the same period. They're full of S, said Joey Piscatelli, SNAP Northwest Regional Director, told Peter Schweitzer, a Breitbart News senior contributor and author of Profiles in Corruption, Abuse of Power by America's Progressive Elite. Oh, yes. Joey Piscatelli. You can quote me on that, he said. They're not protecting the victims, he said of Harris's office. Rick Simons, an attorney who represented victims of clergy sexual abuse in California, said Harris's action of covering up documents on the cases shows a pattern in practice and policy of ignoring the right of children by one of the largest institutions of the city, in the county of San Francisco, and in the Bay Area. Later in her convention speech, Harris claimed, as a young courtroom prosecutor in Oakland, California, I stood up for women and children against predators who abused them. But Peter Schweitzer revealed that in addition to campaign donations from multiple law firms defending San Francisco priests against crimes, multiple board members of San Francisco Catholic Archdiocese-related organizations, it's a very left-wing archdiocese, and their family members donated more than $50,950 to Harris's campaign. Harris had no particular ties to the Catholic Church or Catholic organizations, but the money still came in large, unprecedented sums, said the investigative journalist. Funny how the rest of the media completely ignore this story. Schweitzer alleged that connections Harris had with powerful people within the archdiocese influenced her to bury the records with allegations against priests. Her office would strangely hide vital records on abuses that had occurred, he added. D.A. Harris focuses her efforts on putting child molesters in prison, her office insisted. In an effort to refute those claims, we're not interested in selling out our victims to look good in the paper. I don't know what that means. I don't know what that means. But one of the gentlemen who has been leading the fight to expose her, and who's a Democrat, but a victim of child molestation for 2 long years when he was in high school, is Joey Piscatelli. And Joey Piscatelli, I believe for the first time on national TV, will be on Life, Liberty, and Levin tomorrow night, Saturday. I hope you'll set your DVR. I hope you'll listen to this man. He has a lot of courage. He's a general contractor. He's a Democrat, but he's also very much involved with this organization, That's about protecting individuals who were molested, children who were molested. And he has nothing but contempt for her and for her lies. And so I told you here on Blaze, on Fox, that I'm going to spend every show on my Fox weekend shows, both of them, until the end of this election, exposing Kamala Harris, because the media will not. Here's the underlying story from the Daily Mail. Kamala Harris, of a few years back, Kamala Harris buried investigation into predator priests and did absolutely nothing after becoming San Francisco DA, say victims who want her cases filed released. See, they wanted the files released because they were bringing civil cases. The prior DA had done an extensive investigation. He was going to bring charges. Kamala Harris ran against the sitting DA and defeated him. And she dropped all the investigations. She didn't bring a single case against a single priest who'd been molesting children. Not one. This is a scandal. As she goes around talking about her prosecutorial record. And then, very much like this guy Walls, who lies, he's a psychopath. So is she. So is she. I'll be right back, Mr. Producer.
Mark Levin.
The cracks in our economy are widening by the day. We've got a labor market that's cooling faster than expected. Unemployment jumped to the highest since the end of 2021. The market could be in free fall any day as investors panic over a potential recession. Now, some bank stocks are getting hammered as fears of a downturn grow. Even the Fed is talking about rate cuts to prop things up. In uncertain times like these, you need a solid plan for your wealth. That's where gold comes in. It's been the ultimate safe haven for as long as we've used money. And when it comes to gold, I trust Advantage Gold. They're a top-rated American gold company and can help you protect your hard-earned money. Call Advantage Gold now at 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit and to see if you qualify for $1,000 in free silver. Don't wait. Call 800-900-8000 today. That's 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. That's 800-900-8000. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. Well, when the president calls, you take a break, Mr. Producer. Let me tell you, if you knew him the way I knew him, you'd be so excited. You're excited anyway, and I don't blame you. But he's going to have a big event. I think it's in Phoenix the next hour or two. And those of you who have access to a TV, I don't know, maybe we can take it on radio. I don't know, Mr. Producer. We'll give it a shot, right? We'll look for it, and if we can get it, we'll grab it. If we can get it, we'll grab it. All right, let me continue here. Kamala Harris, the great prosecutor, looks out for little kids, right? This is from the Daily Mail a few years ago. Survivors of sexual abuse by Catholic clergy claim Kamala Harris did not do enough to prosecute their cases when she was San Francisco DA. As a matter of fact, she didn't prosecute any of them. One victim said Harris did absolutely nothing. And that's the gentleman who will be on my program. Tomorrow night, it is a killer. My opening statement, Mr. Producer. You know, it's amazing. I talk about democracy. I had to tape the opening statement because I have to coordinate with the crew and the satellite and everything else. So I did, but then we do the interviews. And I talk about democracy. I swear to God, people are going to say, well, you and Robert Kennedy were on the same page. I did it this morning. I didn't even know what Robert Kennedy was doing, but I hope you'll watch this. It's very, very important. And this guest is very important. And on top of that, we have Newt Gingrich, and he's on fire. Fantastic. Harris was district attorney shortly after the Boston Globe revealed sexual abuse by clergy in the Boston area, sparking worldwide outrage. The Harris campaign defended her record to the Daily Mail. Of course they do, but they lie. Survivors of sexual abuse by the clergy claim Harris didn't do enough. Victims said compared to Terrence Hallahan, who was DA before Harris defeated him in the 2003 election. Harris did absolutely nothing. So she defeats this DA who was gathering information, who was investigating, who was going to bring cases. She defeats him and she kills the cases. This is a scandal. How's Jake Tapper going to defend this? It went from Terrence Hallahan going 100 miles an hour, full speed ahead, after the church, to Kamala Harris doing absolutely nothing and taking it backwards hundreds of miles an hour, said Joe Piscatelli, a sexual assault survivor who won a court case against his Catholic high school. He told The Intercept. Again, he will be my guest tomorrow night, as well as Newt Gingrich. Kamala Harris has been a staunch advocate on behalf of sexual assault victims. This is the campaign spewing the bull. Several other victims told the news website that her office refused to meet with them, declined to release the files on the clergy abuse, in other words, undermine their civil actions. Dominic DeLucia, a California resident who was said he was raped by a local priest when he was 12 years old, claimed Harris wouldn't meet with him or release the files. I remember Kamala Harris, he said. She didn't want to have any meetings. She wanted the public to think this is an issue that happened years ago, that it doesn't happen anymore. Let's just move on. The Harris campaign said the files weren't released because it would create a chilling effect on cases being reported and threaten the privacy of victims. Now, as you'll hear from Joey Piscatelli, the names of the victims, Mr. Producer, were redacted. They were crossed out. They were blocked. It's a lie. They wanted the files because she didn't bring the cases within the statute of limitations purposely. And then they said they wanted to bring the civil cases. We needed the files. And she ignored them. She ignored them. DeLuca said he believed it was the power of the church in San Francisco that kept the files under lock and key. At a town hall with CNN in Iowa, Harris said, "My career has been based on an understanding. One, that as a prosecutor, my duty was to seek and make sure that the most vulnerable and voiceless among us are protected. And that is why I personally prosecuted violent crime that includes rape, child molestation, and homicide." But this isn't the first time the Harris DA's office came under question. In 2004, shortly after she took over the DA's office, she declined to pursue the death penalty for a gang member accused of shooting San Francisco police officer Isaac Espinoza, despite heavy political pressure from the police union. Harris had campaigned on the promise never to pursue the death penalty and stuck to that during the case. The killer was sentenced to life in prison. Now, the Wall Street Journal reported on the failure of Harris's office to adopt a Brady policy early on, which is a policy where a DA's office discloses past misconduct by law enforcement in order to help ensure defendants receive a fair trial. She was a mess. A mess, a disaster. And you're going to hear from one of the victims who she blew off, who she ignored. You're going to hear from him tomorrow night on Life, Liberty, and Levin. His own words. Again, a Democrat. But he's not very political, to be perfectly honest with you. And he's very soft-spoken and very articulate. So I'll see you on Life, Liberty, and Levin tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern. And I'll see you in a few minutes. We'll be right back. This is Mark Levin with an urgent message. We are living in grave and dark economic times that are going to get worse. We just saw an abysmal jobs report while unemployment shot up to the highest level since the end of 2021. Meanwhile, the stock market looks like a gamble. Many banks are getting crushed as recession fears mount. The S&P Banks Index fell 2.4% in a single day. That's a lot. Regional banks fell nearly 3%. That's even more. These are bad signs. Even the Fed is talking about rate cuts. You need to protect your wealth. That's where diversification and gold comes in. It's been a bedrock of wealth preservation for centuries. And the best company I know of is Advantage Gold. Their experts can help you protect your savings from economic chaos. Call now, 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit and see if you qualify for $1,000 in free silver. That's 800-900-8000. Don't wait. Call now. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional.
Mark Levin, tough as hell.
That's why I like Mark Levin. And I'm not sure a lot of people like him. He's tough as hell. But I like him. I love him.
Call in now. 877-381-3811.
Ever hear of Mossab Hassan Youssef? Mossab Hassan Youssef. He's the son of one of the founders of Hamas. Now you're familiar. Now you remember. We've played some of his audio on the program. He's going to be a guest on Sunday's Life, Liberty, and Levin, along with our buddy Brent Bozell, so you're not going to want to miss that either. He's unbelievable. You know, this guy Sinwar, who in Gaza itself was the head Hamas genocidal mass murderer. Apparently one of the things that he is demanding for a ceasefire is that he not be killed, that he can go to Qatar. Did you know that, Mr. Producer? And Netanyahu has said, no, we're killing you. You led that brutal attack on our people. But so now he is trying to negotiate for his life. He doesn't mind anybody else dying. He doesn't mind anybody else dying and going to heaven and meeting their virgins. But you see, the heads, they're all cowards. The Islamo-Nazi who runs Iran's a coward. These people are cowards. Their people are fodder. That's how they view it. They view their people as fodder. Just to remind you. Now, Jake Tapper, if we had a real media in this country, Jake Tapper would be, he'd be running the cafeteria at CNN. Because he's not a journalist. He's a phony, a fraud, and a fake. In fact, they all are over there. I can't think of a single journalist over there. Not one. Dana Bash. Oh, the new men, the Democrat men. Less testosterone. Maybe that's the kind of man that she's dated and married in the past, but that's just a freakish kind of stupid statement. I mean, how does it even come to your mind? Dana Bash's real name being Dana Schwartz, by the way. I don't know why she goes with Bash. Well, Bash is her married name. No, she divorced that guy, and she married another guy. King. Matter of fact, her colleague there. It's all so incestuous, so grotesque. And she's there, commenting on the men at the Democrat convention. So stupid is she. We don't say men at the Democrat convention. We say pronouns. We don't distinguish people based on their genitalia, do we? We have a Supreme Court justice who was nominated and confirmed, who wouldn't define a woman. Yet she's the first black woman on the Supreme Court. And Kamala Harris, they tell us, would be the first black woman as president of the United States. But don't say woman unless you're what? What a bunch of mental cases. I'm just saying. But Jake Tapper is a head case, and there are so many in the American Pravda, Al Jazeera media. So many head cases. He's definitely one of them. He is that unrelenting, constipated look on his face. And he always sounds like he's got a, cucumber stuck up his nostril, Mr. Perdue. That's just my opinion. One man's opinion. Here he is, cut 25, yesterday on the Constipated News Network. Go.
He's really tried lots of ways to attack her. I've known Vice President Harris for some time, and I know criticisms of her that I think are fair, ones that are not fair. I've never, ever heard her described as lazy. That is, of course, a racist trope about African Americans, and I'm wondering if what you thought of his use of that word.
You know, we don't have time or the need to get into the mud with Donald Trump.
Okay. So he calls her lazy, therefore he's calling all African Americans lazy because it's a racist trope. I see. They call him Hitler and Mussolini. What kind of trope is that? Kamala Harris, so you can't call her lazy because of her race? I'm just curious. I don't understand this. I'm learning things as I go along, you know. There are lazy white people. There are lazy Hispanic people. There are lazy Asian people. There are lazy black people. There are lazy Jews. There are lazy Christians. There are lazy Muslims. There are lazy atheists. People are people, regardless of their background, their color, or anything else. So he calls her lazy, so automatically that triggers a racist trope. So these attacks on Clarence Thomas, are they racist tropes too? I'm just curious. These attacks on Tim Scott, are those racist tropes too? Are they? These attacks on Netanyahu, are those anti-Semitic tropes? Are they? See, Jake Tapper has perfected the game of the radical left Democrat dressed up as a journalist. Once you throw the word racism out there, it's over. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Oh, my God. You see what I'm saying? Because in the end, Jake Tapper is a radical Democrat. In the end, he defends the Hamas statistics and uses them. In the end, he's a mouthpiece for the Democrat Party. That's what he is. He seemed to have a little too much testosterone in that exchange, don't you think, Mr. Producer? I really think so. So the other side, Hitler, Mussolini, he's going to destroy this, he's going to do that, and on and on and on. Not racist tropes. The dehumanization effort that goes on. The man was almost assassinated and more assassination threats, and he's the problem. He's the problem. Of course. And Jake Tapper's there to report it all. Well, Joe Scarborough is sort of now the Adam Kinzinger of cable. Boy, what a pathetic loser that guy is. I'm glad he's with the Democrats, aren't you, Mr. Producer? Another freak, fraud, and phony. Grifting. Grifting over there on the left. But Joe Scarborough actually defends Kamala Harris's proposal. Handing out money ain't socialism, he says. So Joe Scarborough's thrown in with the kooks, with the socialists, with the Marxists and the Islamists. Man, oh, Manischewitz, I'll tell you what. It's one thing not to like Trump. It's another thing to take up the flag. The sick, perverse, and the extremists. Cut to, go.
And Eddie, how right the senator is that often what's branded as far left and progressive is right in the middle of where so many Americans are. Like, for instance, Tim Walz is being attacked as a communist, as a socialist. Why?
Hold on, Joey. He said he's a socialist. And he said socialism is nothing more than neighborliness. Didn't you hear him say that? If Donald Trump had gone to communist China 30 times, you'd be accusing him of selling out to Xi. Walz went to communist China 30 times, praised communist China. They've praised him. Do you have a problem with that? 2.5 million Uyghurs in concentration camps being raped, tortured, and murdered? and he has nothing but positive things to say about that regime. See what I mean, Joe? You're selling out your soul here. Go ahead.
Hungry kids in Minnesota to have breakfast and lunch at school. Kamala Harris being called a communist.
No, that's not. Nobody's even complaining about that. No. Why don't you go where you need to go, Joe? You believe with your own kids, if they were children, young, that the state should have the final say on whether or not there's surgical or medical mutilation of their genitalia? That even if you get a court order in another state, that Minnesota's to ignore? You agree with that, man? You're an extremist radical kook then, bro. You agree with abortion right up to the last minute? No exceptions? No parental notification on teenagers? The American people don't agree with that. You see, this is why they won't campaign on what they actually have done and what they actually believe. And even Scarborough, in describing what they believe, he won't go there. He just mocks people who call them what they are, Marxists and socialists. They're Marxists and socialists. So why not call them that? They're not capitalists. They're not constitutionalists. Go ahead.
A communist because she wants to make it easier for younger Americans to get that first house, which they cannot get now. They are shut out.
Let me help you out, Joe. Giving every first-time homeowner $25,000. Where does that money come from? You have to redistribute wealth. You have to take it from people who don't have $25,000. It's taken from the middle class. First-time homeowners. What about second-time homeowners? What about people who don't want to own a home and they just rent? You don't get it? Redistributing wealth, it's more than redistribution of wealth. You're taking money from many people who never went to college, from many people who are having difficulty making ends meet, and you're giving it to people who are wealthier. The market system is how you buy homes. You stop spending, stop the debt. You start to begin to support constitutional government, where you keep printing money. You have massive interest rates. You have inflation through the roof, even if they lower interest rates. You have the devaluation of the dollar. You destroy the home market. You destroy the food market. You destroy the gasoline market. And you think, oh, there's no problem. How do you fix inflation? Spend more money. Spend more money. There's the economist over there at MSNBC. Print more money, spend more money, more debt. That's the problem, you see, America. That's the problem. As you tighten your belt, as you have to make choices between what kind of food you can purchase, you can't afford school supplies for your kids. I've met these people, and it's many of you. And his answer is, sure, hand out $25,000 check. What's next, Joe? Is it okay to give free medical care to illegal aliens? Where's that coming from? Medicare for all, Joe, does that make sense to you too? Well, you're all in, bro. And yes, Bernie Sanders is a Stalinist. He went to a Stalinist kibbutz. Do your homework. At least have your researchers do your homework. And yes, this is American Marxism. It's not capitalism. It's not a little bit of socialism. It's both feet in. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
The cracks in our economy are widening by the day. We've got a labor market that's cooling faster than expected. Unemployment jumped to the highest since the end of 2021. The market could be in free fall any day as investors panic over a potential recession. Now, some bank stocks are getting hammered as fears of a downturn grow. Even the Fed is talking about rate cuts to prop things up. In uncertain times like these, you need a solid plan for your wealth. That's where gold comes in. It's been the ultimate safe haven for as long as we've used money. And when it comes to gold, I trust Advantage Gold. They're a top-rated American gold company and can help you protect your hard-earned money. Call Advantage Gold now at 800-900-8000 for a free gold investment kit and to see if you qualify for $1,000 in free silver. Don't wait. Call 800-900-8000 today. That's 800-900-8000. Tell them Mark Levin sent you. That's 800-900-8000. Performance may vary. You should always consult your financial and tax professional. What's this all about? Just broke from Reuters. U.S. Appeals Court scraps Biden tipped wage rules. The U.S. Appeals Court today struck down a rule adopted by President Joe Biden's administration designed to raise pay for tipped workers. Three-judge panel in New Orleans-based Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals sided unanimously with two restaurant industry trade groups. The rule required employers to pay tipped workers the federal minimum wage of $7.25, not the lower $2.13 minimum wage for tipped workers for non-tipped. It goes on and on and on. Look, don't tax tips. 70 to 75% of wages of most waiters come from tips. It's that simple. It's that simple. President Trump has a new ad out. Speaking of tips, Mr. Producer, let's do cut 3. Go.
Don't let Kamala Harris fool you. Harris not only supports taxing service workers' tips, news reports confirm Biden and Harris have weaponized the IRS to confiscate your tip money. Harris and Biden have literally unleashed the IRS to harass workers who receive tips. And they just may be coming to your house next. Only President Trump has a plan that ends all taxes on service workers' tips. President Trump, he's on your side.
I'm Donald J. Trump, and I approve this message.
Amen to that. By the way, the liberals on TV are excited because Kamala Harris said Israel has a right to defend itself. The Israelis don't need Kamala Harris or anybody else to tell them they have a right to defend themselves. Notice the language. Donald Trump used the language, they have a right to defeat Hamas, is what Donald Trump says. It's not a matter of a right to defend yourself. What does that mean? Oh, yes, if they'll just do what we tell them to do. Cease fire. And she wants them to convey Judea and Samaria, their ancestral homeland. Kamala Harris doesn't support Israel. That's why she's meeting in secret with Jew haters who talk about the extermination of the Jews. She's meeting in secret with them. But you know what, ladies and gentlemen, as a Jewish person, these left-wing Democrat Jews, some of them are just hopeless, like left-wing Democrat Catholics with this abortion on demand. And you can go down any faith or any race, genitalia, whatever it is. Some people are fanatics. Some people put party first. My wife has told me this for a long time. That is, for these leftists, it's the party, not their faith, not their family, not the country that comes first. Just like good communists, good communist soldiers. Doesn't matter what she says about Israel. They'll vote for her no matter what. It just doesn't matter. Mental. They're mental. I shall return. This segment of the podcast is exclusively sponsored by Pure Talk. Pure Talk offers great coverage and can save your family money on your wireless bill every single month. Go to puretalk.com to find the plan that's right for you. Thank you again for listening, and thank you so much for this sponsorship, Pure Talk.
He's here. He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
Hello, America. Mark Levin here. Our number, 877-381-3811, 877-381-3811. When President Trump speaks at this rally in Phoenix, he'll be accompanied by Robert F. Kennedy Jr., we will run that. You know, I watch like sports from time to time. UFC, I'm really obsessed with that. Football and baseball from time to time. Basketball, all of it. I'm no expert. But I was watching the Yankees. I think they were playing Detroit. Anyway, Doesn't matter. This guy, Aaron Judda, I mean, he's like a modern day Lou Gehrig or Mickey Mantle or something like that. This guy's unbelievable. By the way, he's massive. He's 6'7", and everything else. He's a nice guy. He's well-spoken. But look at the size of him. It's not just his height, but the way this guy's built. And he's got a beautiful swing. And he's batting like .334. He's got 48 home runs. Maybe he got more home runs today. This guy, you guys in New York, you're lucky to have a guy like him. I'm being perfectly honest. How your Mets doing, by the way, there, mister? Not good? But they're doing a little better than they were, right? Yeah. My Phillies, they're still at number one. I love that team, too. Orioles are doing great. I mean, I'm watching this more and more now. Dodgers are doing very well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, as I say, when the president comes up to speak, we will take that. But in the meantime, on CNBC, this guy, Joe Kernan, I know nothing of him. I've never met him. I've never spoke to him. But I like him. Tries to do an interview. He's respectful. But when a politician keeps interrupting them, the talking points, the socialist mumbo-jumbo, he tries to address it. They talk over him. He pushes back. This is something that Joe Scarborough could learn rather than throwing in with the Marxists and the socialists. So let's check it out. Here it is, and this is from CNBC Today. He's with Elizabeth Warren. Dizzy Lizzie is in a tizzy. Cut one, go.
You remember we all talked about egg prices. You end up with something like this giant egg producer, Cal-Maine. And Cal-Maine raises the price of eggs. Their profit margins increase by 718%. That's not just passing along costs.
Senator,
and that is a time
that's sophistry. Your example on Kraft. Your example on Kraft is even worse.
You finished first. In any of the states around the country that already have price gouging laws in place.
Can I tell you why those are fallacious and misleading at best? And your Kraft analogy is even. Why can't I tell you? Please let me tell you. Kraft, you say, was 440% profit increase. The example you used, the prior quarter from the year before, they had a charge of $1.3 billion, an accounting change which wiped out profits. Then they earned what they normally. Let me finish now. They earned.
You didn't let me finish. Look at the data. Come on. We have economic study now after economic study.
This is the way it always goes.
When there is more concentration.
40 million eggs were destroyed because of avian flu.
When there is more concentration in an industry, we have seen much greater increases in.
Do you attribute the inflation? Markets. That's what you think we need to do to solve it?
They're not random. They are not random one-offs. It is part of the problem when you've got companies that are gouging consumers on prices. Consumers need to know they've got somebody on their side.
Senator,
and
listen, we're trying to help. We're trying to actually do.
Where are you in the 37 states that currently have price gouging laws?
Just quickly on that point, Senator Warren, can you, this is Kelly here, can I just clarify how this would work?
This is the way you never lose an argument, because no one can ever say anything back to you, Senator.
The state price gouging laws.
She's such an ass. He's trying to explain that they had to take a massive hit the year before. He's also trying to explain that this virus or this flu or whatever it is hit these chickens. They had to destroy all these eggs. And so that drove up the price. And what she's trying to do, because she's trying to smother his facts, what she's trying to do is just say they're trying to rip you off. And that's not true. He's also trying to say, he didn't get a word in edgewise, is this is what you're blaming on food increase? This is what you're blaming on food inflation? And so you see, this is the problem. So the people of Massachusetts hear this a-hole. That's all they hear. And then you have the left-wing reporters, I'm sure at the Boston Globe and so forth, just spewing all the stupidity. And so you're left to believe that Kraft is just ripping off everybody because of the price of eggs, when that's not the story. She doesn't want the facts, and this is natural for a Marxist. Facts don't matter. And I thought he was pretty damn respectful, don't you, Mr. Producer? I wouldn't have put up with it for long. Trump in Las Vegas today was a great event. You know, he's doing great events. He was on the border yesterday, did a great event. He's out there. He's pressing the flesh. He's explaining things to people. You wanted him to be focused on issues. He is focused like a laser on issues, which, of course, Jake Tapper doesn't cover. These issues are very confusing for Jake. After all, he is a left-wing Democrat who spews Hamas data. Cut 5, Mr. Producer. Cut 5. Go.
Kamala Harris is now pretending to endorse my policy. She's got a lot of other policies. She's
no taxes on tips.
She's a flip-flopper. You know what a flip? She's the greatest flip-flopper in history. She went from communism to capitalism in about 2 weeks. But in fact, Kamala cast the tie-breaking vote to hire 87,000 new IRS agents to go after your tip income. They're going after it in a lot of ways, so I don't know what they're doing now. This has happened with a lot of industries. When we come out with something, they immediately fold.
Cut 8, go.
Kamala also sponsored legislation to blow up the tip system entirely, which would inflict financial calamity on food servers and bartenders in Las Vegas and all across America. They have bills pending and things pending and resolutions pending and special orders pending where they're going after your tips. I don't know what they're going to do with that. Are they supposed to be dropping? I assume they're going to be dropping all that stuff, at least until after the election. They'll bring it back after the election. Kamala supports a bill to eliminate the federal tip credit, which would force restaurants to impose large service charges on diners, meaning customers will not leave tips at all, and you'll be stuck with a minimum wage or whatever you might be making. This is something that they're forcing. I will never let that happen. Under the Trump administration, you'll keep your tips, and restaurant workers will keep all of your hard-earned money.
Yeah. You know, I love the way she says he wants to raise taxes on the middle class. She will cut taxes on the middle class. There hasn't been a Democrat who has cut taxes on the middle class since John Kennedy. Period. Biden didn't cut taxes on the middle class. Obama didn't cut taxes on the middle class. Clinton didn't cut taxes on the middle class. That's right. Carter didn't cut taxes on the middle class. LBJ didn't cut taxes on the middle class. John Kennedy did. He cut taxes across the board. He was a capitalist. Kennedy is the kind of Democrat in terms of policies that a lot of Democrats used to identify with. These Democrats today aren't the Democrats of the Kennedy era, half a century ago. These are Marxist Islamists, Tlaib, Omar, AOC, Bernie Sanders. That's who they are. Tampon Tim Walz, Kamala Harris. Joe Biden is Bernie Sanders dressed up as a mental patient. That's what he is. That's what he is. And then finally, he's right. Remember where Kamala Harris comes from? San Francisco, California. She destroyed the legal system. She destroyed the prosecutorial system. She therefore destroyed businesses, destroyed them. With Proposition 47, which she supported, which gave hoodlums, thugs, thieves a green card, a get-out-of-jail card, if they stole valuables at $950 or less. So you can imagine 10 thugs go into a store, they steal $9,500 worth of stuff. Each one's charged with a misdemeanor, and they're out the back door. That's what's going on. She did that. She did that. She was a Soros prosecutor before there were Soros prosecutors, and now she met with Alex Soros the other day. Met with Alex Soros, well, in secret. Met with the Islamist that runs Dearbornistan, Michigan, in secret. She will do to this country what they've done to California. They'll do that to the voting system. They'll do it to the border. They'll do it to the energy system. They'll do it to businesses. They'll do it to law-abiding Americans. And you'll have nowhere to go, no state to escape to. Cut 7, go.
Kamala wants to bring sky-high California energy prices to the rest of the country. And they have just destroyed California. First time ever. More people left California than came in. They've never had that before because they have the best weather, the most beautiful land. Everything is so good, but they have a terrible governor. He doesn't know what the hell he's doing, but he's got a great line of He's got a good line of stuff. We're doing great in California. You know the U-Haulets and the trailers and stuff? They go to Texas, Florida, other states, right? And they don't know what to do. They only go one way. They want to try and get them. They want to try and get them back. They have a hard time bringing them back. They don't know what to do. But under the extremist net zero energy policies, what you call them, the extremist, the radical people, they're really hurting our country and ultimately destroying our country. The environmental extremists, we call them. Nevada electricity prices have already increased by 50%. So it's 50%. Do you see them going up there? I mean, do you see that? They've gone up by 50% over a very short period of time, and I'll unleash American energy, and we'll cut your prices in half. We'll be able to get your energy prices cut in half, and that goes for the whole nation.
And he means it, and he'll do it. You see, Joe Scarborough, that's how you create prosperity. You don't nationalize healthcare. You don't nationalize the pharmaceutical companies by, quote-unquote, snatching their patents. You don't destroy the food supply chain by setting government, Washington, D.C. prices on food, which would be a disaster. We'll all starve to death. Yes. You don't destroy the family unit. You don't make decisions, that is the government, about decisions that should be left to parents. Destroy the family unit. Yes, it's called Marxism, American Marxism. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
I'm going to let you in on a little wireless trick that can cut your cell phone bill in half every single month. Other major carriers want you to believe you need unlimited data so they can overcharge you. Here's the fact. Most of you are buying way more data than you'll ever need and you'll ever use. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, only charges you for data you actually want. Listen to this. For $25 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data plus mobile hotspot. Do you know what you can do with 5 gigs of data? You can browse the internet for 135 hours, stream 1,000 songs, or watch 10 hours of video. Folks, stop overpaying for wireless. Get 5G coverage with Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Switching is painless. It's easy. There's no contract, no activation fee. You can even keep your phone and your number. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month on top of all the other savings when you sign up with Pure Talk. You know, folks, what's amazing? 4 days, wall-to-wall coverage by the media of this Roman clown show in Chicago. Freak, frauds, and phonies. What did you learn? Nothing. Nothing you didn't already know. We had dancers, we had singers. Of course, we had politicians. We had the Obamas who drop in every 4 years. We had Clinton, who didn't look well. Hillary, who never looks well, even when she is well. And what did you learn? You didn't learn a damn thing about Kamala Harris. 37-minute speech, one of the shortest in the history of these conventions. Robert Kennedy got it right in Phoenix today when he said the following at his press event. Many of you were working, so you may not have heard this. Cut 8, go.
They installed a candidate who was so unpopular with voters that she dropped out in 2020 without winning a single delegate. My uncle and my father both relished debate. They prided themselves on their capacity to go toe-to-toe with any opponent in the battle over ideas. They would be astonished to learn of a Democratic Party presidential nominee who, like Vice President Harris, has not appeared in a single interview or an unscripted encounter with voters for 35 days. This is profoundly undemocratic. How are people to choose when they don't know whom they are choosing? And how can this look to the rest of the world?
I'm going to spend a lot of time on this. I have with you. Tyrants use the word democracy all the time, as we've discussed. They love that word because it's used as camouflage for what they do. The people and democracy. Now, I notice they're kind of switching out the word democracy, slowly but surely, for the word freedom. Freedom? You won't be able to drive the car you want. You won't be able to have the air conditioning unit you want. You won't be able to have the washing machine, the dishwasher, the dryer you want. You won't be able to have the lawnmower you want. You won't be able to have the automobile you want, single-family home you want. Choices? Freedom? They nationalize health care, one size fits all. That'll be fun. That's not freedom. Democrat Party doesn't believe in freedom. This administration, Harris-Kamala, Kamala Harris, Biden-Joe Biden, has been the most anti-Constitution, and as Jonathan Turley has written in his brilliant book, the most anti-free speech First Amendment administration in 250 years. 250 years. Think it'll get better under Harris or worse? Think it'll get better under Walz or worse? Walz was the most aggressively tyrannical governor when it came to the pandemic. The most aggressively tyrannical governor. He ordered the cops to watch your homes. They were armed with literally paintball pistols and rifles. There's video, isn't there, Miss? You've seen it, Mr. Producer? Where they're shooting at people who are standing in their own doorway. They shut down churches and synagogues and mosques, too. But the abortion clinics were open, so were the ABC stores. I mean, folks, they try to say that what they've done is democratic when what they've done is autocratic. They say they stand for freedom when they stand for tyranny. They say they stand for the rule of law when they object to the First, Second, Fourth, Fifth, Sixth, Eighth, 10th, 14th Amendments. I'll be right back. I'm going to let you in on a little wireless trick that can cut your cell phone bill in half every single month. Other major carriers want you to believe you need unlimited data so they can overcharge you. Here's the fact. Most of you are buying way more data than you'll ever need and you'll ever use. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, only charges you for data you actually want. Listen to this. For $25 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data plus mobile hotspot. Do you know what you can do with 5 gigs of data? You can browse the internet for 135 hours, stream 1,000 songs, or watch 10 hours of video. Folks, stop overpaying for wireless. Get 5G coverage with Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Switching is painless. It's easy. There's no contract, no activation fee. You can even keep your phone and your number. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month on top of all the other savings when you sign up with Pure Talk. First of all, let me say this. When American Marxism came out, and I was on Fox and the radio and Blaze and everywhere else, I said, stop calling these people progressives and socialists. Stop being afraid to call them what they are. They are Marxists. And I'm proud to say we're now calling them Marxists. They're American Marxists. Communists, if you prefer, but Marxists is what I prefer. We're going to go live to Phoenix, Arizona. This stadium is loaded to the nosebleed sections. Here's President Trump.
You're getting out of the race, Joe. And if you don't do it the nice way, we'll do it the tough way, Joe. And he said, okay, and now I have a new opponent. This never happened before. We spent $100 million and a lot of time on defeating him. And as soon as he was gonzo, it all started with the debate. The debate. All that time, all that effort. A friend of mine said, you did a terrible job in the debate. I said, why do you say that? Everybody said I was brilliant. They said, no, you got him out of the race with that debate. It's all right. We have to do what we have to do, right? We have to do what we have to do. And now we have somebody that, in theory, should be easier to beat. In theory, because she's a radical left Marxist, and everybody knows it. But we're welcoming the support from millions of disaffected Democrats, independents, moderates, old-fashioned liberals who still believe in things like, little things like borders. I was there yesterday. That's a scary place. Sir, it's about time that you get out of the sun, sir. We're going to have to get you out of here, sir. Let's get the hell out of here. She was the border czar. She presided over the worst border in history, not American history, world history. Democracy, liberty, and of course, always the right of free speech. We don't really have free speech right now. The press, look at all of them. Look at all of them. Look at that. Wow. Man. That's a lot of press.
This place is packed.
Fake news. That's a hell of a lot of fake news. Gone forever is the old Democratic Party of FDR, JFK, and that's right, even Bill Clinton. Kamala Harris's Democrat Party is the party of free health care for illegal aliens, communist-style price controls, defund the police. All her life she wants to defund the police. A little while ago she changed, didn't she, huh? Banning gas-powered cars and sex changes for minor children without parental consent. How about that one? How would you like that? Without parental consent. Can you imagine your kid comes home without parental consent? What happened to my baby? What happened? The true divide in American politics today is between these far-left fascists led by Harris and her group, and you know who her group is, and citizens of all political backgrounds who love our country, share traditional American values, the values that you have right here in this great state, and look past our differences to unite around a thing called our great American flag. And we should speak to our great congressmen and congresswomen. They ought to make it illegal to burn the American flag. If you burn the American flag, you go to jail for 1 year. 1 year, that's all, 1 year. You burn the American flag, because in Chicago at the Democrat deal, they were burning flags all over the place. You burn the American flag. They say it's unconstitutional to do that. I think it's constitutional. You burn the American flag, you go to jail for 1 year. Nobody's going to be burning the American flag anymore. Our opponents worship the deep state. We want to obliterate the deep state. Slight difference. Our opponents, thank you. Our opponents join with warmongers and neocons to wage endless wars, these wars that never end. We don't even know who the hell the country is that we're fighting. We believe that America is strongest when America is at peace. We want peace through strength. That's what we want. Like we had 4 years ago. We didn't have any wars, except we wiped out ISIS very quickly. It was supposed to take 5 years to beat ISIS. I did it in 3 weeks. They support coercive COVID vaccine mandates and want to fire you. If you don't obey, you get fired. We oppose these mandates as a fundamental violation of our God-given rights. We don't want the mandates. We don't want the mandates. They want to arrest their political opponents and silence those who disagree. We reject censorship in all forms, and we believe in freedom, open debate, and fair, equal, and impartial justice under the constitutional rule of law. Our opponents slander us as a threat to democracy. Trump is a threat to democracy. No, they're a threat to democracy. How many times have you heard, it's a talking point for them, right, Deb? It's a talking point. Donald Trump is a threat to democracy. And those guys say it too, because they're the same thing. They're like a part. They're a subsidiary of the Democrat Party. Meanwhile, they rig their primaries. They force out Joe Biden. They force him out of the party. Joe Biden got 14 million votes in an unconstitutional coup, and they appoint a nominee who never got a single vote. And when she ran against this guy, and I'm no fan, he was the worst president in the history of our country. He let in millions and millions of people through her. Let in millions of people would destroy our country. But we're going to get those people out, the people that came in here from jails and prisons and mental institutions. But they threw him out. They ran against each other for the primary, and she never even made it to the first state, the great state of Iowa. Never made it. And now she's the one running. A little strange, isn't it? You see, that's really a threat to democracy if you get right down to it, right? In our movement, we know that democracy does not mean rule by the Democrat establishment. It means rule by the American people. Tonight, I'm very pleased to welcome a man who has been an incredible champion for so many of these values that we all share, and we've shared them for a long time. I don't think too many of you people have heard of him. He's very low-key. He's a very low-key person, but he's highly respected. He is a great person. I've known him for so long. For the past 16 months, Robert F. Kennedy Jr.
We're live. It's in Phoenix at their stadium, which is filled to the nosebleed seats. President Trump and Robert Kennedy coming on the stage now. Back to President Trump and Robert Kennedy.
And I don't think I've ever introduced anyone that got applause like he just got. I must tell you, I don't think it's true. I don't think I've ever introduced anybody that got applause like that. Amazing. It's true. Amazing. Soon after I can't even believe I have to say this, nearly assassinated in Pennsylvania last month, Bobby called me to express his best wishes. He knows firsthand the risks incurred by leaders who stand up to the corrupt political establishment. When you stand up, you bring on some trouble for yourself, but you have to do what's right. You have to do what's right for the country. I will tell you, we are both in this to do what's right for the country. That's one thing I can tell you. He lost his father and uncle in service to our country, and Bobby himself was subject to repeated threats to his safety during the course of his campaign while being denied protection by the Harris-Biden administration. And this is a tribute in honor of Bobby. I am announcing tonight that upon my election, I will establish a new independent presidential commission on assassination attempts. And they will be tasked with releasing all of the remaining documents pertaining to the assassination of President John F. Kennedy. And they will also conduct a rigorous review of the attack last month. But I tell you, I have never had more people ask me, please, sir, release the documents on the Kennedy assassination. And we're going to do that. And I also want to salute Bobby's decades of work as an advocate for the health of our families and our children. Nobody's done more. Millions and millions of Americans who want clean air, clean water, and a healthy nation have concerns about toxins in our environment and pesticides in our food. That's why today I'm repeating my pledge to establish a panel of top experts working with Bobby to investigate what is causing the decades-long increase in chronic health problems and childhood diseases, including autoimmune disorders, autism, obesity, infertility, and many more. We want every child in America to grow up and to live a long and healthy life. So I just want to ask Bobby to speak for a little while. I'll stand aside. I'm going to stand aside. But I can only tell you, I've known him a long time. We've been a little bit on the opposite side of the equation, but I will say this, he is a brilliant, I still think of him as young. He's not that young. I always call him young, but he's not that young. But he is a phenomenal person, a phenomenal man who loves the people of this country as much as anybody can love the people of this country. So, Bobby, please say a few words. Thank you very much.
It's a big moment, folks. Big moment.
Thank you. Thank you, President Trump. Thank you. Now, a few hours after the assassination attempt at Butler, I got a call from a safe food advocate named Kelly Means, who's been fighting for many years to try to end the corruption at CDC and FDA and USDA. And these institutions, these regulatory agencies, are actually run by the big food processing companies, the big ag and the chemical companies.
So what we're going to do here, America, we're going to take a brief break. Mr. Producer, keep the tape rolling. We'll pick up where we've left off. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
I'm going to let you in on a little wireless trick that can cut your cell phone bill in half every single month. Other major carriers want you to believe you need unlimited data so they can overcharge you. Here's the fact. Most of you are buying way more data than you'll ever need and you'll ever use. Pure Talk, my cell phone company, only charges you for data you actually want. Listen to this. For $25 a month, you can get unlimited talk, text, and 5 gigs of data plus mobile hotspot. Do you know what you can do with 5 gigs of data? You can browse the internet for 135 hours, stream 1,000 songs, or watch 10 hours of video. Folks, stop overpaying for wireless. Get 5G coverage with Pure Talk. Go to puretalk.com/Levin. That's puretalk.com/Levin. Switching is painless. It's easy. There's no contract, no activation fee. You can even keep your phone and your number. Again, that's puretalk.com/Levin, puretalk.com/Levin, and you'll save an additional 50% off your first month on top of all the other savings when you sign up with Pure Talk. Trump and Robert Kennedy in Phoenix. Robert Kennedy endorsing President Trump. Did you ever think you'd hear those words? Trump has united Reaganites, Kennedy, and everybody else. We are live. This is in Glendale, Arizona.
Wow, that was something, huh? That was something. Fantastic guy. You know, he did well, and the polls are good and all, but you have to remember we have sort of like a two-party system. It was designed that way, and it's awfully tough. And as well as he did, he'd be at 10 and 15 and 16 points sometimes. That's a lot. That's a lot. But if he were in a regular system, like as a Democrat or perhaps as a Republican, but not against me, of course. But if he were in a regular system, there are a lot of people that maybe liked him the best, but they said, we can't vote. So with all of those votes he was getting, he has a lot of votes that he could have gotten. I think he's going to have a huge influence. We're leading now, but I think he's going to have a huge influence on this campaign. Actually, much bigger than you'd see in the polls, and those numbers are big to start off with, but Bobby and I will fight together to defeat the corrupt political establishment and return control of this country to the people. And to all who supported Bobby's campaign, I very simply ask you join us in building this coalition. It's a beautiful coalition in defense of liberty and safety,
Who's uniting America
prosperity,
now?
and peace. It's going to be an incredible coalition, and the relationship has been so good for so long. I have no doubt it's going to work and work well. But we have to win. We have to take our country away from these people that are going to destroy our country. We won't have a country left. So thank you very much. We need your vote. As you all know, this week the Democrats held their convention. You probably saw it, their party. The media says the big message from their convention was that we need to turn the page from the failures of the last 4 years. Do you believe it? They forgot. They've run it for the last 4 years.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we'll take a short break. The Power Hour is next. And as long as President Trump is up there, we will listen to him. I'll be right back.
He's here. Now, broadcasting from the underground command post, deep in the bowels of a hidden bunker, somewhere under the brick and steel of a nondescript building, we've once again made contact with our leader, Mark Levin.
You know, America, I got a stack of stuff here ready to roll. But I have a feeling you want to hear President Trump. Now, we can't do this all the time, but I just want the stations down the line to know that this is a very historic moment. When Robert Kennedy has endorsed Donald Trump, this is I think it's a big, monumental event.
I think for the 1
Go.
year he had one person come in, but they got him. Now we have 3 million people coming in through your border. Oh, through the whole thing, it's ridiculous. It's not. Joe, it's an honor. And I'll tell you, people didn't treat you right. You are a legend, and you did a job like nobody else.
That's Sheriff Joe.
True. Great going, Joe. And we love your wife. I lost his wife a few years ago, and she was a hell of a woman, right, Joe? But she's looking down at you, and she's proud of you. She's saying, you did very well with this group of people. But I've known you for a long time, and there was nobody like him. He understood the border better than anybody, and he ran it fairly. He ran very fair, but he ran it strong, and they respected him. They didn't even try. So thank you very much, Joe. And your wife she's proud of you. She's proud of you. Very proud of you. We're grateful to be joined tonight by the founder of Turning Point Action, a gentleman named Charlie Kirk. Thank you, Charlie.
Charlie's a great guy.
What a job he does. I said, Charlie, do me a favor. We got this thing won, but do me a favor. Make sure they don't cheat. The only way they can do anything is if they cheat like hell, and we've been victims of that. Make sure they don't cheat, Charlie. We don't need the votes. We just want to make sure that they don't cheat. Hello, Sheriff. How are we doing? How are you guys doing? Good. Thank you.
You can tell the president's in a damn good mood right now.
Law enforcement official, because we got the votes. We got to make sure everything's on the up and up. Charlie and his team of people. I mean, he's got hundreds of thousands of young people. It's actually quite discriminatory. Charlie, have you ever been sued by old people for not accepting them? He's got the youngest looking group of people, and they're warriors. They're unbelievable. The job Charlie has done is incredible. Thank you, Charlie. Thank you, Charlie. The job he's done is really incredible. Also with us is an incredible congresswoman who has decided to go onto a certain board. Do you know what I'm talking about? The most important board maybe in the whole country. And she's going to make sure everything's on the up and up. Debbie Lesko. Debbie, thank you, Congresswoman. Thank you, Debbie. You make sure, Debbie.
I think we're going to bow out, Mr. Producer, monitor this. If the president swings back into some issue-oriented discussions, we'll go back to that rather than the introductions. But the main event that took place here about 20 minutes ago was he was joined on stage by Robert F. Kennedy Jr. It's historic. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. fully endorsed President Trump. They admit they don't agree on everything, but they agree on enough. And that's my attitude right now, too, America. You know, when we had to win World War II, it's not an exact parallel, but it's good enough. We had to align ourselves with some individuals, and that's the way it goes. We must win this election. And it's a good lesson for all of us. We're not looking for perfection. We're not looking for 100% agreement. We can deal with policy later. That is, I don't mean abandoning principles, but we can duke it out on the fringes of the policies and the principles later. If we lose, there's no duking out anything. The Democrat Party, Schumer's already said it, they intend to change our voting system. They intend to change our constitutional system, separation of powers. They intend to pack the courts. They intend to get rid of the filibuster rule so they can ram through anything they want with a simple majority and we'll never be able to reverse it. They intend to even open the borders further. They intend to grant, by executive order, millions citizenship, that is amnesty. All of this is illegal. All of it is unconstitutional. They intend to take over our healthcare system. She said it. They intend to destroy our oil companies and our gasoline companies. That is, pipelines, fracking, the whole thing. Well, that is a disaster. They'll turn us into California and worse. They will not support our military. They oppose our cops. They support Soros prosecutors. They object to school competition, particularly for poor minority kids. There'll be a sellout to the teachers' unions, which are radicalized. There'll be a sellout to what our children read and study in our libraries. It'll be a complete disaster. Women's sports will be destroyed forever. The First Amendment will come under attack. It's already under attack. The Second Amendment for sure. The Fourth and Fifth Amendments that protect your individual rights, they will be under attack, as will the Sixth Amendment, That is the seizing property and fines. The right to competent counsel. The 8th Amendment. That is the seizing of property. That's right, the wealth tax. They'll call it a fine. As well as the 10th Amendment, federalism, and of course, the 14th Amendment that goes hand in hand with the 5th Amendment, due process rights, equal protection rights. They will use the 14th Amendment to ban people from running from office who they don't like. They will stack the judiciary with these radical left-wing judges so there's nowhere to go. They've got the plan. They've got it all figured out. Those of you who support Israel, Israel will be destroyed. I firmly believe this. I firmly believe this. I truly do. Our colleges and universities will be forever controlled by the Marxist Islamists. There'll be endless rioting in the streets, endless crystal knocks. American history will be waved away from our children. No moorings anymore. Parental rights, forget it. The right to protest at abortion clinics already under attack, you'll go to prison. This country won't look like anything that you're used to. Your lifestyles will change. Your livelihoods will change. You think it's bad now. You've not lived through a horrendous depression when there are no jobs, when there is no food on the shelves, when your money is worthless. And when that happens, the government gets even stronger. And when the constitutional barrier is destroyed, the courts stuffed with leftists, you got a little taste of it, a little bitter taste of it during the pandemic. A little bit. That was it. And so, yes, I'm very happy that Robert Kennedy has endorsed Donald Trump. And I hope more will come to the fore. There are people like Kinzinger and Cheney, Comstock and Ludick. They're a disgrace. They disgust me. And we need all the help we can get. There are people like Christie, sits on the sidelines. Romney sits on the sidelines. George W. Bush sits on the sidelines. We need every hand we can get. But we'll do it without them, because we must. Let's dip into the rally again, Mr. Producer, live.
Crossings record.
President Trump.
Triple and quadruple what the year before, where I'd have like 150,000 and she'd have 2.5 million. What she has done to this country, nobody can tell you.
The border.
You know, she destroyed San Francisco as the district attorney. She destroyed California. You know that. This is a woman that's going to take. She destroyed California. She had a policy, if you steal less than $950, you're allowed to keep it. You can go, we're not going to prosecute. So criminals are walking into stores, mean, nasty guys, rough guys, and they take calculators and they calculate. Let's say I want to get up. They walk out, then they walk back in. The whole thing, this is who we're going to have running our country? I don't think so. And nobody lies like her. She's a liar. She makes up crap. She's the one going to raise. You know, she said, Donald Trump is going to raise. You know why? She said I was going to raise it. Because I'm going to put tariffs on other countries coming into our countries. And that has nothing to do with taxes to us. That's a tax on another country. And I did it with China, and we had no inflation. You know, I had no inflation. I took in hundreds of billions of dollars from China, and not one other president took in 10 cents. They were all, oh, China, we're afraid of China. We're afraid of China. According to a new DHS report, Kamala Harris also lost, and this is impossible to believe. Listen to this, 325,000 migrant children are gone. They're missing. She allowed them to be trafficked into our country. Many of these children are now in sex slavery or they're dead, probably mostly dead. They will never see their homes or their parents again. They were swiped out of their homes. They were taken out of their homes. 300, this is a government number, 325,000 children, sex slaves or they're dead. Many are dead. Hamas has so little respect for Kamala and Joe Biden, crooked Joe Biden, that the hostages that they're talking about all the time, I believe they're largely gone. I believe they're largely gone. So sad. When you look at what happened, when you look at that attack on October 7th, I believe they're gone. And the reason they're not negotiating, it says Hamas has decided not to negotiate because what they want back are the hostages. And I think those hostages, for the most part, aren't around anymore. And so they said, oh, boy, we can't really negotiate because we don't have the hostages. The hostages are largely gone. How sad, how terribly sad. If they feared and respected Joe Biden and Kamala, they would never have killed those hostages. They would have never attacked. They would never have attacked when I was president. Iran was broke. Iran was broke. I told China, if you spend any money on buying oil from Iran, you'll never do business in the United States again, and we're going to put a 200% tariff on you. And Iran was broke, and they had no money for Hamas, and they had no money for Hezbollah. You can check your numbers. Look at it.
This is a leader.
They had no money.
He knows how to deal with China. He knows how to deal with Iran and all the rest of them.
None. And when they asked Viktor Orban, the prime minister of Hungary, very strong guy, what is the reason that things are so bad now? The Middle East is blowing up. Russia's blowing up with Ukraine. There's wars starting all over the place. Looks like bad things could happen in Taiwan with China. What's the reason? He says, you got to get Donald Trump back as president. You won't have any problems.
We're going to take a short break, but we will be right back.
Mark Levin.
You want to hear how sycophantic the media are? They actually want you to believe that at the Democrat convention, which is basically a Marxist Islamist pool hall, a Roman circus, that they're promoting patriotism. And that Ronald Reagan and Margaret Thatcher's name have said more at the Democrat convention than at the Republican convention. The media are so drunk by their own stupidity. This guy, John Carl, he's as dumb as a doorknob. And then, of course, there's Stephanopoulos, the head of the war room that abused women on behalf of Bill Clinton. Listen to this. Go ahead.
Quite a contrast from the way she ran for president the first time when she tried to get the nomination 4 years ago. This is a Kamala Harris that sounded a little bit more like Maggie Thatcher or Ronald Reagan, especially on national security, than like Bernie Sanders.
All right, stop, ladies and gentlemen. Margaret Thatcher would despise Kamala Harris. Ronald Reagan would despise Kamala Harris. Nancy Reagan would despise Kamala Harris. So now they're projecting Reagan and Thatcher on the Kamala Harris and her radical agenda. This is how perverse ABC News has got. You know, they're all horrific. ABC News has gotten to be the worst. So here's George Stephanopoulos, Democrat. Go ahead.
Mentioned that there's more talk about Ronald Reagan at the Democratic convention than the Republican convention, and the Democrats really making a play to claim patriotism.
Oh, yeah. Side. And how are they claiming patriotism? By trashing the cops and the military? I'm just curious. What was patriotic? What was patriotic? Nothing. Nothing. And Reagan? And Thatcher? I knew Ronald Reagan, and I knew Margaret Thatcher. Georgie and Karl, would that be John Karl Marx? And no, they wouldn't. They wouldn't be happy with the Democrat Marxist Islamist convention. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, there's an opening there. Donald Trump has used words like American carnage to talk about America, has portrayed a more isolationist, protectionist view that is at odds with what Ronald Reagan was all about. So this was Kamala Harris.
That's strange that you would say that. Ronald Reagan didn't go around causing wars. There was never a war with the USSR. He economically killed that country, as Trump was economically killing Iran. And Reagan did. He went into Grenada. Trump took out Soleimani. I mean, I can go on and on about this, folks. They try and paint Trump as an isolationist. Even some isolationists try to paint him as an isolationist. He never has been, and he isn't an isolationist. I'll be right back.
Mark Levin, the thunder on the right. Call in now, 877-381-3811.
I want to read something to you, America. Kamala Harris gives her speech. Biden makes his statement about Israel, about Jews. You got that schmuck, the governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro. Just horrible. From the Jerusalem Post, Gal Kalev, the Biden administration is restarting sanctions against Jews after an 80-year break. The U.S.-led world is reinstating an ancient European practice, sanctions against Jews. For centuries, sanctions were a primary tool for European governments to manage their relationships with their Jewish populations. The sanctions, sometimes against a subset of Jews or even individual Jews, were not only punitive, but also served as signaling and deterrent mechanisms as European governments dealt with the complexities of the quote-unquote Jewish question and its broader implication. At different times, European sanctions targeted different aspects of Jewish life. Sometimes sanctions were in the form of restrictions, such as limits on where Jews could live, how many children they were allowed to have, which cities they were allowed to enter, and what professions they were allowed to work in. Other times it was about taking decisive actions against Jews. For example, in the 17th century, France issued sanctions against Jews through the Office of Beggars and Jews. There were too many beggars in the streets. It was intolerable. And so they targeted Jews. Most Jews weren't beggars. And in most likelihood, most Jews were themselves bothered by the presence of beggars, Jews and non-Jews alike. Similarly, in 17th century France, most Jews did not interact with beggars. Beggars were out of their social circles and did not dress or even look like them. But it didn't matter. Jews, however, were fully aware the Office of Beggars and Jews was targeting Jews, not Jewish beggars, not any beggars. Similar realities exist today with the open-end sanction regime instituted by the Biden-Harris administration against Israeli Jews. At first, American Jews felt reassured that the sanctions, the first Western sanctions tailored to Jews since the Holocaust in the Third Reich, were not directed at them, but at so-called violent settlers. The administration, along with the media, has been instilling the fable that there's large-scale anti-Arab violence by Jewish residents of Judea and Samaria. No doubt, anti-Arab violence and rhetoric is a serious issue. There's growing anti-Arab violence in France and throughout Europe, as well as in the U.S., he writes. For example, the shooting of 3 Arab students in Vermont and the stabbing of an Arab woman and her 6-year-old child who died in the attack. There's also anti-Arab violence and rhetoric in Israel and Judea and Samaria. Since then, the sanctions have expanded to include a broader group of Israeli Jews, Israeli charity organizations, civic leaders, protest organizations, and even threats of sanctions against military units in Israel and the IDF and even Israeli elected officials. Through his actions, Biden provided a so-called kosher certificate for other countries to sanction the Jewish state and its residents, a dream come true for Israel bashers. Indeed, the EU, the UK, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, and Japan picked up the glove and jumped right in. Never before has there been such a broad coalition supporting sanctions against Jews. And keep in mind, Jews in Israel. It's not just Jews who are targeted by the renewal of this ancient European practice of sanctioning Jews. The essence of the American Revolution is under attack. The American Revolution was a rebellion against old European dogmas, including the well-instilled European notion that when things are good, you thank the monarch, and when things are bad, you blame the Jews. America created a principle that went against the core of Europeanism. All men are created equal. This included Jews. Therefore, the American Revolution was a negation of the European use of sanctions against Jews. America is an idea, President Biden often states. Well, the sanction regime against Jews is a negation of that idea. Biden uses the marchers in Charlottesville in 2015 to demonstrate a rebuke of the America idea. Yes, and the way he lies about that in Trump. Today, some Jews draw assurance that the sanctions are against Jews who don't look like them, who don't dress like them, attend the same cocktail parties, or sit on the same boards as they do. Just like French Jews had nothing to do with the beggars in the 17th century France. Most American Jews do not interact with young Israeli protesters blocking roads to promote their cause, whether the roads in Tel Aviv to support a deal with Hamas, which demonstrators argue will lead to the hostages' release, and so forth and so on. One prominent Jew even took to the Senate floor to parrot the accusation made by Haman in the book of Esther, in the book of Esther, and the Nazis in Germany. Jews are a pariah opposed by the rest of the world, yet Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer made an odd caveat. He said it is the Jewish state that is a pariah opposed by the rest of the world. We good Jews here in America are just fine. In an act of hypocrisy or detachment, he then took the podium of the Democratic National Convention and called to, quote, stand up to anti-Semitism, which he himself is generating. He himself is generating. American Jews need a wake-up call. The Biden administration's sanctions need not to be managed through the office of settlers and East Hampton Jews. For American Jews to understand what is happening here. Some Democrats downplay the sanctions as only till November, reminiscent of U.S. President Obama's message to then incoming Russian President Vladimir Putin via then President Dmitry Medvedev in 2012, heard in an open mic. After my election, I have more flexibility. So it goes on. Sanctions against Jews in Israel. And now you have at least half a dozen other countries, so-called democracies, doing the same thing. Do they do that to any other country? No. I don't want to hear again how Biden and Harris support Israel, how they're not opposed to anti-Semitism. Why are they focusing exclusively on Jews in Israel? How come not Palestinians? Palestinians in Judea and Samaria, Palestinians in parts of Jerusalem, Palestinians in the Gaza Strip. Do they do that to Palestinians? No, they don't. This is an anti-Semitic administration. Harris is anti-Semitic. I don't care about that slug that she's married to. I could give a damn. Josh Shapiro is a complete sellout. He could have given a Martin Luther King type speech at that convention, but he didn't. You go along to get along, right, Josh? Have we tried to get him on the show yet, Mr. Producer? Keep asking. Keep asking the governor to come on the show. We'll be right back.
Mark Levin.
Folks, I call this Radio Free America. I've been doing this for a while. But at no time in my career, no time in my lifetime, are the next 75 days more important. 75 days, especially after Labor Day weekend. I commit to you to be behind this microphone. We'll be off a little while around Labor Day, after Labor Day weekend, day in and day out, every evening. We'll do everything we can. From Maine and Alaska to California and Washington State. New York and Philadelphia, LA and Phoenix. Every city, every community, every state we are in, and we are in them all. Nothing will stop us here. Our affiliates, I want to thank them for being loyal. I want to thank Satellite, XM, Sirius XM. We are always on YouTube, our own channel. And, of course, we have the Mark Levin app and the iHeart app and platforms galore. This election is crucial. Every day up to Election Day is crucial. We must win Pennsylvania. I'm a Philadelphian. That's where I grew up. That's where I went to school. That's where I went to college. That's where I went to law school. That's where I was elected to the school board in Cheltenham. We will join our forces. New York. That's where my radio career began. L.A., where we've been the number one host in our time slot for years now. City after city, town after town, we're going to make a difference. This, I promise you. I just want you to know we're in this together. I'm blessed with this platform. I'm blessed with the ability to talk to you. I'm blessed with our presence in city after city, town after town, state after state, including the so-called battleground states. We will do this together, and we will have victory together. We go to America every Friday in honor of you. Here we go. Dems compare Kamala to Hillary. They compare her to Thatcher. How about we compare Kamala to Kamala? That's the problem, isn't it? Ladies and gentlemen, the week is officially over. The weekend begins right now. Don't forget, tomorrow night, 8 p.m. Eastern, Life, Liberty, and Levin. Don't forget, Sunday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, Life, Liberty, and Levin. Set your DVR as well. I encourage you to do that, folks. All right. We salute our armed forces, police officers, firefighters, emergency personnel, our truckers, our brothers and sisters in Ukraine, our brothers and sisters in Israel. We have your back. Good night, Spritey and Griffey and Pepsi. Good night, Zelda and Smokey and Gigi. Good night, Indy and Patton. Good night, Rory. Good night, Barney and Marty. We miss you deeply. Good night, Dad. Good night, Mom. We're fighting like hell. Good night, Leo and Joe and Bernard and Teddy. And good night, America. God bless.